Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Stars, a new video series showcasing interviews with successful people that contain inspirational and motivational insights to hopefully push you to reach to the stars. This video is my interview with Professor Abimbola Asojo. Dr. Asojo is a professor of interior design in the College of Design at the University of Minnesota. She has 3 degrees in architecture, as well as a doctorate in instructional psychology and technology. She has been an instructor since 1997 when she began working as an assistant professor at the University of Oklahoma. She is currently the Associate Dean for Research in the College of Design. Who inspires you and why? And like on your journey to where you are today, is there anyone in particular you'd like to mention?
You know, I would like to give credit to a lot of, first of all, my parents. Thank you for really pushing me. And, like I come from a family that believes strongly in education. And, that went to an international high school as a young lady many years ago. And I remember when I was in high school like you, 2 female architects came to speak at my institution. And I decided that I wanted to be an architect after listening to Mrs. Olumide and Mrs. Shobande. And those were 2 leading female architects in Nigeria back then. And I was fortunate as a college student, I interned with Fola Olumide and Associates. And ever since I saw them when I was in high school, I decided I wanted to be an architect. And it's interesting because, in high school, I had Mrs. Lokakinwale was my art teacher. And I also had a technical drawing teacher who believed that I was really good at those 2 subjects, and math was my favorite subject as well. So I decided that architecture was the thing for me, combining the art, my technical drawing, my art and my math together. And I never went back and looked back on that,
Wow, so it sounds like those architects offered you like a chance to combine all of your different interests into one.
Yes, and having great teachers too that encouraged me.
So did you have any college professors you have in mind as well?
Yeah, I would say in terms of I remember Paul Coates was my Professor Coates in England, was my professor when I was doing my master's in architecture, computing and design in UEL. And I remember, my thesis projects in London, I don't know if you've heard of Le Corbusier. Le Corbusier is a Charles Edward Jeanneret, a French architect who's the founder of the modern movement in architecture.
Oh.
A lot of architects will probably tell you a lot about. He developed international style architecture. And in his designs, he used these 5 points of architecture, which he called, you have to lift the building off the ground on pilotis. Pilotis are columns. You have a free facade, so long ribbon windows along the facade of the window of the building, and then also, free forms, and then a roof garden in the design. So interestingly, what I did for my thesis in England was I took Corbusier's 5 points of architecture, and then I wrote a Lisp routine. Believe it or not, as an architect, then I had practiced in Lagos, Nigeria after I graduated, and I wanted to do further studies. Like I mentioned to you, I come from a family of educators. Both my parents are retired academics, so that really pushed me. You never stop learning. I believe in lifelong learning. So I decided to go get another master's in England. And then while there, I picked up Corbusier's 5 points of architecture. And then I developed like a Lisp routine. Lisp, using AutoLisp. AutoLisp was the built-in programming language of AutoCAD. And then every time you type a random number, and I wrote a 16-page Lisp routine based on the rules of design that Corbusier had for his international style architecture. And every time you type a random number, you generate a building that looks like Le Corbusier's building. So there's a publication I have that is called After Le Corbusier. And I was really inspired by my professor there in London then, Professor Paul Coates. Unfortunately, he passed away a couple of years ago, but he was really proud of me because it's nice to see using random numbers and rules in architecture to generate buildings that look like Corbusier's buildings. And
Wow.
he would always say to me, he wonders what Corbusier would have said, looking at computer programs generating his building, his architectural forms. Yeah, I encourage you, I can send some of the links to you later, and you can check out that article and see some of the prototypes that were generated.
Yeah, that would be great.
Yeah.
And then is that like machine learning? Like,
no, yeah, it's interesting because, that's, that really framed one of my areas of research is also computing and design. So it's really framed my research interest and my area since. And in fact, when I moved to the US, like one of the reasons I was hired in University of Oklahoma was to help them develop their computing and design program there in interior design. So I developed the computing classes for the interior design students there. And even that has followed me through life. And even here in Minnesota, when I came here in 2011, I was also the one who developed the computer modeling classes because, in design, we use a lot of, nowadays, we use a lot of digital representation.
Yes.
And another fun part that I'm enjoying so much now, like I mentioned to you earlier, when you, in design or in architecture, there are very few underrepresented designers that look like me and you.
Yes.
Because, the field is still trying to broaden participation and be more inclusive. So, for example, in the state of Minnesota, there are 4 licensed Black female architects.
Oh, only
in the
4?
whole of the United States, there are about 530 licensed Black female architects.
Okay.
So we really have, we have a long way to go.
Yes.
And then, so part of me, because of that, I do K through 12 programs to really engage and let the youth know about design related fields and architecture as a career path for them. And, I remember, like I mentioned earlier on, one of the reasons I studied architecture was because I saw those 2 role models. So I strongly believe that when kids see role models that look like them, they are more inspired and then they're interested in those professions. And it's interesting, I have a camp that is coming up in the next, from June 27 to July 8th. We're going to be engaging kids in design and math. We're going to be kids will be learning about design related fields while also looking at the intersection between design and math.
Yes.
Then they will be learning about sketching, about modeling, 3D modeling, and then also 3D printing. So where I'm going with this is that I integrate a lot of technology and rapid prototyping in the work I do.
Yes.
In the fall, I usually teach a lighting design class here at the University of Minnesota, and my students build light fixtures, using
light fixtures.
Yes, in the lighting design class, and learn about the various lighting distribution patterns that you can get from the light fixtures they're building. So when you think about it, design, I always tell my students, especially in the lighting class, lighting design is an art and a science. So it's not uncommon that they're calculating how much lighting is in the space or looking at the lighting distribution. You're balancing aesthetic and functional issues whenever you're designing.
Yes. So it's very poetic that you were inspired by 2 architects and now you're the one inspiring other people.
Yes.
And then on a different but related note, did you face any challenges when you were becoming a professor in architecture and design? And how did you overcome those challenges?
That's a great question, Eric. The challenges, I would say that, and this will not only be a challenge that someone like me would face, because, like I mentioned, in architecture and even in interior design, there are very few underrepresented minorities. So it can be challenging, when you're in that field. But then, I have, like I mentioned, I've used a lot of those to help me inspire other young kids that might look like me. Because when they see people that look like me succeeding, it inspires them and they're able to, know that this is a field that they'll be able to succeed in.
Yes. Hey everyone, I hope you all enjoyed watching this video as much as I did making and editing it. Dr. Asojo is such an amazing and successful person, and it's really inspiring to hear his story in architecture and design. Please do share this video with others who you think might need it, to do a small part in inspiring them as well. It only takes a few clicks of your mouse to make a difference in their lives. Thanks so much for watching, and until next time, keep reaching to the stars.